Hello, hello, and welcome to our very first speaker of the weekend. I am so pumped. I know we have a lot of exciting things going on in terms of competitions, but personally, for me, the speakers are definitely my favorite part because we get to learn so many different aspects of esports and gaming. So today, we are very lucky to be joined by Marie-Clare from Women in Games. So welcome, welcome. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the company and yourself.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hi, Maya. Thank you so much. I'm pleased to meet you all, and I'm so pleased to be here at this event today. I'm particularly proud to be representing the UK in supporting this event in the US to celebrate esports for kids, parents, and gamers of all ages. Myself and Women in Games are absolutely behind encouraging support for the Extra Life Foundation as well. And I really hope that I can provide some insights and value during discussions with you all today. Okay, I'm the CEO of Women in Games. I joined the organization in 2016 after a career as an academic. I ran a bachelor's and a master's program in video games art and design of 400 students in the UK for 10 years. When I joined the program as director, there were no female staff and no female students. And I made it my mission to change that. And I took the program to a 50-50 split in the staff and a 40% female to 50 to 60% male cohort. I completely overhauled the curriculum. And in my last year, before becoming the CEO of Women in Games, I achieved a student satisfaction rate of 100%. So I'm very proud of that. But I also felt at that time that I was in one university, I was doing one thing, and actually I had more to give the world. So it was very timely when the role for CEO of Women in Games came up. And so I had been recognized by the video games industry for that work I'd done in education, and I wanted to make a bigger difference. So that's when I took on the role. I have a real interest in the history of play and how video games have developed over the centuries into the digital form they are now. And I really don't see that much difference between what people played centuries ago. It's only the technology that's changed. That's a little bit there about my background.
That's amazing. And can I just say that those percentages that you just listed are absolutely incredible because, at least in the US, last time I was looking at it, the percent of women in the gaming industry or the esports industry in general is 5%. And that's in terms of staff. I'm not sure what that percentage
Yeah.
is in professional play and in the actual
Yeah.
competitors. I'm sure it's actually even lower. So
Yes.
that's the percentages you attained at that university are absolutely incredible, and the world is definitely very lucky that you thought you had more to give and went on to work for Women in Games so that you can bring that to other organizations.
Yeah, and you're right about esports, and I'm doing a lot of work at the moment in trying to support a variety of initiatives. I'm sitting on quite a lot of policy panels that are looking at ways and white papers for government looking at ways of how to make those changes, as well as actually Women in Games are trying to do some grassroots work as well. So because I don't think it's always top up, I think sometimes it's bottom up, and if you can support people just to do things and to do things in the right way, that's where change can really take place. So at Women in Games, we're doing a lot at that lower. It's not a lower level. It's just more of an immediate level.
Mhm.
But I think all the levels need approaching. And I think you're right about 5% for esports. And I think globally, the average for women in games generally is about 23% of women working in the games industry, when actually 50% of the population is female and 50% of players approximately across the world are women. So there's still some work to go. We're moving forward, but I do feel that there's more to be done. Yeah,
Absolutely. More to be done and you're doing it. So tell us a
that's
little bit about
right.
the Women in Games. How did the organization start and what are some of the initiatives? So you're talking about there's the bottom up, there's the top down, and I agree that, definitely both approaches are important. So what are some of the avenues and initiatives that Women in Games is working on and how
Sure.
is it bringing about that change?
Yeah, I mean, our main mission. Okay, so we're an activist organisation. We believe that getting women into games and esports should be framed as a national, international, and strategic priority. Um, we think there's a business case as well, stronger teams, better insights, in innovative new products, and we believe in more diversity and more perspectives. So from grassroots, Women in Games have built a powerful and diverse community. We have, Women in Games was founded in 2009. And in fact, I mean, this is quite ironic, but it was founded by a man called David Smith. And when he founded Women in Games, there were very few women working in the games industry. He was actually a recruiter, and he could see some of the inequalities, but also a strong bond between a lot of the women, although it was only a small group working in games at that time. So what he first set out to do was actually to build a platform for women to get jobs. But what
Mm,
happened on the platform was that women just started talking to each other about some of the challenges, some of the issues, some of the successes. And so it really grew out of that. So Women in Games grew out of this very grassroots starting point. But now, obviously, we are doing we're doing a lot more. So we have four pillars of action, which are policy, education, industry, and community. And so everything we do is working towards those pillars. At the moment, we think that there are four very sticky areas, and that is toxicity and harassment online and discrimination in company culture. And we're doing a lot of work at the moment to try and address that in many, many different ways. Another area is entrepreneurship. So it's getting better, but according to a recent survey, I'm just looking at my notes here to check that I'm getting the stats right. But
mhm.
um, uh, in a recent study, females are 63% less likely than males to obtain external financing in terms of risk capital. And the most significant part of the gap derives from differences in gender. We know that even things like getting bank loans, any kind of finance investment is harder for women. Women are seen as much more of a risk.
Mhm.
And that bothers me because I think particularly if we take esports, what you want is you want women coming into that space and women starting companies of their own and women leading, not just
Absolutely.
women working at the bottom levels. And I think we talked earlier. If you're a streamer, it's your company, you're doing the work. So we have to try and encourage that. Education is still difficult. I think young women are still not necessarily seeing games, esports, the opportunities there, the career pathways. So, Women in Games are doing a lot of work on that to try and encourage, that to happen as well. So
Mhm.
we have these sort of very particular areas. We have a program, an ambassador program, which we launched actually in 2016. And we hope that we might get maybe 20 or 30 people to kind of work with us. We now have over 500 members in 52 countries across the world.
Impressive.
These are individual ambassadors, all women who are all different levels in esports and in gaming who want to make a difference. We have a corporate ambassador program, and we also have launched an education ambassadors program. So what we're trying to do, Women in Games, is to create this kind of ecosystem of working together with a lot of different stakeholders and partners because I strongly believe, and I know from my own experience, that you're always stronger when you collaborate and work with other people. It's not a competition. When I first came into the diversity space, I was quite shocked actually from coming out from education, coming into this space. It's actually quite brutal, and it's very,
Mm-hmm.
very competitive. The charity sector is not always very charitable. Um, so I've had to find my own way of working within that. But my perspective on it, and that's how I approach everything, is through collaboration and partnership. Because I think you can only really change things and get things done when you work with other people. You can't, you're not the boss of it.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be more about, looking at what different kinds of organizations, if you pull the resources and pull things together, so much more can get done. Sorry,
Absolutely.
I've
I
gone on a
absolutely
bit of
agree with you.
gone on a bit of a rant there. Yeah,
That's all
sorry
right.
about
You have a lot to say about the subject, and I totally understand because I'm right there with you. I absolutely agree. I actually had a couple thoughts on things that you've said. One of the things that you said was that the organization was started by a man, and that's kind of ironic. I, I think it is and it isn't. I actually think it's a good idea that it was started by a man because one of the things that I talk about when I talk about inclusivity is that it's important for those in power to take ownership of the fact that there is this, a big gap. Um, you know, Whether we talk about being actively anti-racist, right? Like it's the job of
Yes,
white people, right? To make sure that
yes,
we are actively engaging and making sure that persons of color are involved. And the same thing in gender diversity. It's really important for men to stand up and recognize that they have this privilege and they have the power and narrow that gap. So I think it's actually really good that this gentleman decided to step up and start this company. Um,
yes, yes. No, indeed. And just quickly to say that, we are an organization who are looking after the interests of women, all women, whatever background they come from. But I think our events, our conferences, our festival, which will be taking place in September, is open to everyone. So whilst the subjects that we might be addressing, some of the content is very focused on women and the showcasing of women as well. We believe it's very important to give women a voice, and also to show that talent, because that's not always visible. I mean, recently, I was at a games event, and panel after panel, there was hardly any women on it. There was maybe one woman, five men. So we are focused on that, but we do have, we are open. So I think the last event, I think we had around 17% of men in the audience, which and we had a few male speakers as well who can speak very specifically on certain subjects. And I think it's really important to have allies. I think it's I think as a woman, I want to be open to working with anyone who can see that we still have things to do, male or female. So that's important.
Absolutely. And I think your approach is absolutely right because one of the things that it also does is that it erases those gender norms that are completely unnecessary, right? Like when you say, okay,
Yes,
these women might talk on subjects that are specific to women, but what is that subject? Is that subject diversity? Because honestly, all of us should care that
yes,
everyone is involved,
yes,
right? It's not
yes,
just for
yes,
women. It's anybody who
yes,
is a good human being and,
yes,
and cares about
yes,
breaking down barriers.
yes,
That's for everybody. So I
yes.
absolutely agree for that, while you're highlighting maybe some of the issues that women are facing and you're trying to spotlight female
Yes,
leaders, the fact that the event is open to everybody I think is really important.
yes, yes. And we intend to, carry on doing that.
Absolutely. So you talked about collaboration. So if there are
Yeah.
companies out there thinking, okay, we're not doing great in the diversity department, can they reach out to women in games? How does that work?
Yes.
How do you find the organizations that you work with, or how do they find you?
Yes. Okay. So when I took over as CEO in 2016, one of the highest priorities on my list was a new website. We had a website that I don't even think we could use it properly anymore. It was that old. So we've just literally in March, we had the funds and we've been able to launch a new website. There's now a lot of information on it, and it's quite easy to see how you can engage with the organization and all the different pathways. But I think the first thing is to reach out. Then there's a conversation. We have a corporate ambassador program, and that is the first point, I think, of connection with the organization. So it's a way that we can understand the company, whether it's in esports or whether it's in traditional video games. We have even on our corporate ambassador list at the moment a bank. So it can be banking, it can be anyone who thinks, as you just said, that it's something important that they want to get better at, they want to learn about, they want to promote, they want to engage with us on. So that's really the first process. I also, I was going to say if I'm out and about, well, in the last year, I haven't been out and about in the same way that I used to be. However, I've been out and about in this virtual world, and I've met some really amazing and interesting people through this channel. And again, I think it's just having that conversation and seeing what it is that what the needs are of an organization, what Women in Games can do, and actually what organizations can do for women in games. Because, you know, some of the companies that we have as corporate ambassadors are very highly successful, wealthy companies, and their support of us actually enables us to do the work that we're doing in order to make actions and real changes within the sectors.
Absolutely.
So I'm often talking, you know, but equally, I know there are some, you know, like indie game studios. They don't have any money. They're not like the big players, but they also want to do something. So we can negotiate how to work. You know, it's very different if we're working with, you know, I don't know, Ubisoft or Facebook or somebody like that, or whether we're working for with a small studio. And we're quite flexible and we're quite adaptable, because for me, it's more about what the relationship means and what it can bring, how Women in Games can help the organization, how the organization can help Women in Games. It's not always about the money. It's sometimes just about other kinds of exchanges. So, you know, anyone who's listening, reach out, because, you know, we're always keen to form those genuine partnerships with people.
Absolutely. That's important. So why don't you let folks know how they can reach out? I know you said your website is the best way. Are
Yes,
there any other
yes,
ways for
yes.
folks to reach out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously through any of the online channels, because we've got, you know, we're on LinkedIn and Facebook. We have a big Facebook group that people can join as well. But if you we have, you know, we have an email address that is checked very regularly on the website. So it actually, the website contains a lot of information now about the organisation. So it's a really good way to learn more about the organisation and what we stand for and what we're looking for. So, you know, have a look at that, but, you know, follow us across any of the social media channels as well. And myself or someone on our team will get back to you. But I did just want to say, you know, we are very small. I mean, it's interesting because we've created this global footprint, but actually we're a very small micro not-for-profit organisation based in the UK. We're all part-time, including me. So, you know, I also want to say to people to bear that in mind if you're reaching out to us, that, you know,
So be patient.
we
Be
are,
patient and
be patient, but we are, you know, we're all very, very passionate. So we all, you know, we all do respond very quickly, because we want to. If they reach out to us, we want to reach out back to them. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just to confirm, so you're a UK-based organization, but you
Yes,
help companies globally. So obviously,
we do.
many of our viewers are in the United States right now. If
Yeah.
they're US-based companies, they're still welcome to reach out to you, correct?
Absolutely. And last year, we've always had, well, we always, I say always, it's not true, it's not always, but for the last 10 years, we've had what we called a European conference, which was based in London, was in collaboration with a UK university. We did have people from the States, actually, some speakers. We've had Anita Sarkeesian, we've had Bree Code, we had various, we managed to bring people from the US to the conference. But because of COVID last year, we decided that we would go, we'd change it. We'd go online. We pivoted very quickly. We just said, no, it's not going to be happening in person. If we're going to do it, but we might as well go global because anyone can come to it. So we used a platform called Hopin. It's a baptism of fire, but we did it. We covered three time zones. We had speakers from all over the world, and I found that really just amazing to be able to make those kinds of connections. So this year we are extending what was the conference is now called the festival. So it's a Women in Games Festival. We've got an esports tournament. We have a games jam. We have our Women in Games Awards, which are global now since last year. So we had some really great global entries, and we've added quite a lot of esports categories, and they're global. So again, anyone listening, just have a look on the website because it's all just gone live this week around the awards. And we're planning also this year to run across the festival, which will run across 10 days. We're going to run satellite events, and we're looking for partners and people who want to run things that are aligned to our mission. But you could be anywhere in the world to run those events. You only just have to get in touch with us and say you want to run an event, and then it will be locked into that whole sort of galaxy. We're going to have a galaxy of the Women in Games galaxy with the satellite stars, and we are definitely going for a galactic theme. So more stuff will be going up on the website about it very soon. So
I love it. I love it. I'm hopping onto that website as soon as we're done here. So
that's good. That's great.
that sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
So we just have just a few minutes left. If you have any other thoughts or sort of advice for companies, before they reach out to you, is there sort of one thing or two things that they can start on to really get the diversity going, to really make their organizations feel welcoming to women coming in, both as staff or as competitors or students? In our case, we obviously have esports classes for students. So any words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, what I think is it's just making it important. It's just deciding. It's almost like you have to take an actual decision. I think in the background, it's in a lot of people's minds because there's a lot of talk about it. It's there, and I talk to people and they go, "Oh, we know we need to make this better," and all that. But it's not. That's not quite it. I think you have to go, okay, I do want to make this better, whether it's a class, whether it's a company. So how actually am I or are we going to do it? I mean, here's just a very, very quick example, and this is around curricula. I was asked to go into an organization, and they couldn't recruit any girls. They asked me and they said, can you just, we don't know what we're doing wrong. This was a team of men. There was not a single woman on the program. So I said, okay, well, I'm just going to hold a mirror up to you just for a second. A mirror. What do you mean? Well, who are you? You're all wonderful. You're all talented, but I can't see me in you. Oh, no. Oh, no, that's right. Okay. They asked me to look through the curriculum. Could you have a look at our curriculum? What do you think of it? Et cetera, et cetera. everything in the curriculum was masculinized. Everything. There was no there was nothing in the language. There was no female bibliographies. There were no examples of females. So if you're developing a curriculum and you're saying, right, this is a project on this. So here's an example. It was a project this was a game design project, but it was character. It was character design. So they said, right, you have three choices. You can design a cowboy, an officer, or a coal man. And I just said to them, that's three male characters. There is no female character in there. And to be fair, they were mortified, absolutely mortified when I showed them. They just were embarrassed. They felt terrible. And they just said they hadn't thought about it. They just filled the curriculum with the things that they knew and they were interested in. And they hadn't taken a step back and looked at it from a wider perspective. So I think along with gender, I think there's a whole other set of things. And I just think it's really important, whatever you deliver, whatever you're doing, you just go in and you make a decision that you're going to look at it and look at it properly and make sure that it's doing the best that it can. It's a switch. You have to switch it on. It can't be a box tick. It has to be a definite state of mind, a state of thinking. So and that can work at any level, and for an individual, for a small company, for a lecturer, for anyone. I think it's just believing that it really actually matters and that it's important.
Absolutely. I love it. So not thinking of it as just sort of a side thing, like you said, a checkbox. We have to check these boxes. Like for a class, we want to make sure we have the actual classroom and also that we're addressing diversity. No, it can't be like that. It has to be a part of the entire process. It has to be a mindset, and it has to be there every step of the way.
Yeah, it does. And if you don't understand it, I know, because when I went into this all male domain that I then was suddenly in charge of, I had to think, what's wrong with this? Why is it wrong? What can I do about it? Mm-hmm. I had to learn. I didn't have all the knowledge. I didn't know who all the best women working in the games industry were. I didn't know how I was going to reach out to them and get them to come and talk to my students and my program. I didn't know how I was going to go into schools and say, look, come on, you're 8 years old, but look, here I am. Here's one of my female students that I've managed to recruit this year. You can come on this program too. I didn't know any of this stuff, right? But I made it a priority to learn. So, I think the point is, and I said this to the guys who I've just been describing, the program that I've just been describing. I said, because they said to me, look, but we don't know any work by any women. And I said, okay, well, go find out then. Because you must be curious.
It exists. It's out there.
It exists. You just have to go seek it out and find it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Marie-Clare, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. What an important subject, and just such an informative topic to just kick off our interview for interviews for the weekend. So absolute pleasure and honor to have you. Thank you so much. And we hope that you come back for some of our other events.
No, I'd love to. And thank you very, very much for having me. And it's been a pleasure to have spoken to you today. Really has.
Thanks so much. All right. Well, we'll be back shortly with our next speaker.